Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Ilm podcast. I'm your host, Brother Kamal Uddin, and with me today I have our first revert brother who has recently accepted Islam, and we want to know all the details. We want to know why he chose this faith above all other faith. Let's get straight into it. Assalamu alaikum, Chris. How are you?
Wa alaikum assalam. I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and joining me on my podcast.
Problem at all.
Yes, honestly, although I'm slightly under the weather, I'm not going to lie.
Me too, don't worry.
But I was really excited when you said you're free today. And first and foremost, your name is Chris Hopper.
Yep.
Tell us about where did it begin, your journey, your spiritual journey?
My spiritual journey, to be honest, it started during school and college. I just didn't act upon it at that stage. I had a lot of Muslim friends. I was really interested in like when they were talking.
Whereabouts are you from?
Well, Ardenshaw.
Okay.
Yeah. Born in Clayton, moved to Ardenshaw.
Okay. The name of the school is?
Little Moss High School. It's gone now. It's Loris Rycroft now.
And there were you had fellow Muslim friends there?
Yeah, there was a couple there.
Okay.
Not loads, I'm not going to lie. It was a predominantly white school. And I'd say it was more college that I got into it. But yeah, even at school I was talking to the Muslim brothers, really interested in what they had to say about the religion. And then in college it kind of ramped up a bit. I got a little bit more interested. But I never acted upon it because certain things happened around that time and I got scared.
So were you a person belonging to a particular faith in high school or faithless?
Faithless, completely faithless. When I was growing up, my folks just kind of let me do what I wanted to do.
Okay.
You know, they just saw me as a happy child. And
can I ask regarding your parents? They come from a Christian background?
Well, they're christened, but they're not practicing.
Okay.
So they brought me up similarly to that. Like
Okay.
they didn't take me to church every Sunday or anything like that. It was the only time we ever went to a church would be for a wedding, a funeral, or a christening. So yeah, they were pretty faithless, really. So yeah.
So you said when you were in college, something happened that made you think differently?
Yeah, not think differently. It just kind of stopped me in my progression into Islam.
What was that, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, 9/11 happened.
How old were you then?
I was 17, around that kind of age. But that was the time when I was asking a lot of like questions about Islam and like why you do certain things. And so when that happened, I kind of got put off because of the backlash of it all. I saw like my friends being targeted and it wasn't nice, and I kind of just backed out of it at that stage.
Okay.
So
You didn't want to get involved, you didn't want to take sides, you didn't know whether
exactly, yeah,
the Muslims are to be blamed or not at the time.
Exactly, and I just kind of wanted to be impartial and just kind of blend into the background. I wasn't any kind of person that would come to the forefront, you know. So
Right. That's quite interesting. So I guess when was the turning point then?
So I got a new job and I moved departments, and I started sitting next to another group of Muslims in work. They were all a family and they all worked together at the office. And I'm a bit nosy, and I kept eavesdropping, you know, and listening to what they were saying. And again, I just found that interest again. And I just
This is way after college,
way after. We're talking 20 years later now. I'm 40 now, so
right.
So I found myself like eavesdropping, asking them questions again. Like, you know, I just turned around and was like, "So, what's iftar?" You know, and they tell me like, you know, "Why do you do this during prayers?" And they tell me. So I found myself asking like, you know, certain questions, and then one of them just turned around and basically just said, "Are you interested in joining Islam?" And I was like, well, I wouldn't rule it out. So she gave me your number, in fact. So I rang it, and you answered. We had a conversation and invited me to the Rawda, and I came. You know, watched you do, I think it was Maghrib at the time, and I just noticed how everyone just looked so peaceful, like in the prayers, and it kind of gave me goosebumps. It was almost like someone was there, like, you know, holding me. It was weird. And then I stayed.
So
He showed
during
me
these
around.
conversations, was it like only yourself knew about these conversations, or did you start letting family know that, oh, you know, I'm kind of interested?
I kept it to myself, and because I honestly didn't think I would be here. I knew I was interested, but I didn't know that I was going to take it this far. So I'm glad I did. It's the best decision I ever made. So
Okay, interesting. And were you single at the time, or were you married at the time?
I was married. I was married to a Hindu lady. We've since divorced.
Sorry
But
to hear.
her religion never really kind of. I was never really that interested in it. I mean, I went along with the Diwali parties and things like that, but it never really gripped me into the point where I wanted to, you know, revert into or convert into Hinduism. But I don't know, there's just something about Islam that draws me in, I suppose.
All right. And with your ex, did you start a family?
Yeah, we did. We've got one little boy called Jude. So yeah,
How old is he?
he just turned 3 actually. So
Right. Okay.
yeah,
And I presume you have you're still seeing him.
yeah. I see him a few times a week, and I'll FaceTime him now and again. Yeah, but he's brilliant. He's such a blessing.
So at your workplace, where do you work? Sorry,
British Gas.
British Gas.
Yeah.
You had fellow Muslim colleagues.
Yeah.
You started asking them questions all about Islam.
Yep.
Were you satisfied with their answer? Were you like, oh, I'm getting...
Yeah, I was.
Were you asking what type of questions? Just general?
Just general question. Okay. Yeah, just like, so why do you pray 5 times a day?
Yeah.
Like, what are the 5 pillars? During Ramadan, like, why do you fast? Because I didn't know the answers to these questions, or I'd forgotten them from 20 years ago. So it's just general, like, normal questions. So, but then I started doing my own research. A few of them were giving me like YouTube videos to watch, and I'd watch them. One of them even gave me an English translation of the Quran to read. So
at that moment, you said the 9/11 incident put you off from looking into Islam. Yeah. At that moment, when you were at work asking questions, did you bring that up? Did you say, well,
no.
Guys, did you do 9/11?
No. What it was, like, I was, 17 at the time when 9/11 happened, and you can understand that as a 17-year-old, the world's a scary place, and the last thing you want to be doing is to be going into a religion that has been held responsible for one of the biggest terrorist attacks in ever.
So what was your take on it at the time?
My take on it at the time was
it shouldn't be blamed on a religion. There were certain individuals.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did something nasty.
It's not the religion, it's the individual. That's exactly the way I saw it.
Right. Well,
They
I guess
just happen to be Muslim.
And then you said you were introduced to myself. I remember you called me, and then I asked to come over, and then you came to this wonderful center.
Yep.
And you said we were praying Salatul Maghrib, which is the sunset prayer. Was that your first prayer you witnessed?
That was the first one I witnessed, but I believe I stayed till after Isha as well, because you were showing me around and teaching me things, and
Right, you know what I thought you were going to say? You bumped into the little ones who were playing one bounce and football.
that was a few weeks after that. So yeah.
Did you expect to see things like that?
No, not at all. Like, I mean, you did show me the rooms downstairs with the ping pong tables and the PlayStations and everything, but never did I expect to walk in half an hour early for a prayer and see 4 lads kicking a ball about in the Rawda. And I just thought, you know what, I'm going to join in, see what happens. And yeah, it was great.
Right.
But everyone's been so welcoming since.
Did you win any of those games at the time?
They're all too good for me.
Right.
I'm getting old now.
Then, well, I guess this is where I can comment. You then said, I'm interested in Islam, I want to ask a few questions. I said, right, fair enough. I said, there's no compulsion in Islam. We don't force anybody to accept Islam. I then asked, are you ready to accept Islam? And your response was, when you first met me?
Not yet.
Not yet. Now tell me why.
Because speaking to those people at work, they told me that they pray 5 times a day, and if they don't, it's a sin. So basically, I wanted to learn the fundamentals of praying. Like, I wanted to learn a couple of surahs before I went on the prayer mat, and
Surahs meaning the chapters
yeah,
from the Quran.
yeah, exactly. I wanted to learn that. I wanted to read the full Quran.
Right. So let me stop you there. I've done out of all the shahadas I've taken, we've had brothers, we've had sisters who've come to our center and have even like phoned me up and said, I'm interested in Islam, I'd like to accept Islam. Usually it's quite a quick process. Like, I ask a few questions and they're like, yes, please, well, whenever you're ready, please, if you can help me. Then I make them say the declaration of faith, which only takes like a minute or two.
Yeah.
Well, your case was different. You were the only one who said, I want to join Islam, but only if I know how to pray first.
Yep.
So I was never hit with that type of a request before. So I thought, right, learning how to pray, especially being somebody who's not a Muslim, it's going to take a while. Talk us through that.
So, yeah, you're right. I did say that. And I felt like the only way I was going to learn was to keep coming to the Rawda. So, I'd come maybe every Wednesday, Friday, just to do either Maghrib or Isha, because it was after work and it was easy.
You weren't Muslim at the time.
No.
You were just standing shoulder to shoulder.
Yep.
Nobody knew whether you were Muslim or not.
Nope.
They were just minding their own business.
I was just following what they were doing at the time.
Did you get anyone saying Assalamu alaikum to you, peace be upon you?
Everybody I met in here has been so welcoming, and everyone just says Assalamu alaikum, and I love it.
It's amazing.
At home, I would just do my own research. YouTube is a wonderful thing. There's plenty of YouTube videos telling you what to say, how to say it, what to do in certain situations. So yeah, I just use that, and I feel like I'm at a good standard, but I've still got a lot to learn.
Of course. Did you feel there was any particular videos on YouTube where you felt, this is really helping me to learn more about whether I should accept this faith or not?
No, it was more to do with things that were happening in my life. I was seeing signs. So one of the colleagues at work knew of a few struggles of mine, and they turned around and just said, pray this prayer, and then after it, just put your hands up, make dua, and ask Allah for what you want. So
do you want to go into what these struggles were, just for the benefit of those who might be going through similar struggles? It
was just like courage, like finding courage to speak up about certain things, like at work, and at home, in my home life. I've always been a person that is not very confrontational at all, so I avoid conflict at all costs. But in these cases, I felt like I needed to speak up, but I didn't have the courage. So I prayed, I think it was Isha at the time, and then I made dua, and I just asked Allah for strength and courage to stand up. And literally a few days later, I did. I just, stood up and spoke my mind.
So let's take you back to
things like that.
When you first met me and you put a request through, which was, I'm going to learn how to pray. Please help me how to pray first.
Yeah.
Because I heard when you accept Islam, one of the 5 pillars is to pray 5 times a day.
Yep.
And I want to be praying straight away. So I totally understand that. Not a request I usually get, but I have to say, I was quite taken back. Between that time when you first requested, up until the time you decided to accept Islam, how long was that duration?
Probably about 4 months. I think I met you in April, and I took my Shahada at the middle of September, so maybe 5 months. Yeah.
So it was the middle of September. It's not been long.
13th of September is when I took my Shahada.
So how long has it been till date? I'm only saying this because this might be aired a bit later.
So we are on February now, aren't we?
It's been 4 months.
Yeah, September, October, November, December, January. almost 5 months.
It's 5 months. Right. So now my next question, which I really, really need to ask, is reaction of family of your ex.
Mixed. So my family have been really supportive. Like when I go round there now, they won't offer me a bacon butty anymore.
Okay.
It'll be cheese on toast.
Did you have to tell them in advance? Like,
Yeah, I did tell them. I did tell them that I was going to take my shahada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Full
yeah.
support, would you say, or they were a bit
Probably
taken
a
back?
little bit skeptical.
Okay.
As to why, because they read a lot of news. They,
Okay.
they see that the bad press that we get.
Did
but-
they? I mean, this is the question I would have for you as well. Why Islam out of all of the faith? Why did Islam stand out? There's Hinduism, there's Christianity. I mean, you could have gone back to Christianity. I don't know if Judaism is something you can accept. I'm a bit ignorant about whether that's a religion you can accept. But I'm saying there's a few. There's Buddhism and so on. Why did it? Was it the questions you were asking and you just...
It was the questions I was asking, but also what I was finding out about it. So for me, the Quran hasn't been touched. It's not being edited. It's not being changed since it was written.
That's amazing.
And I found that like really, like, what's the word? I found it amazing, and because it says things in the Quran that are only happening like nowadays, and it's like, how could anyone have known these things?
Have you read the Bible?
No. Well,
I'm only asking, just wanting to know whether you were able to compare.
yeah, I've not compared,
yeah.
and the only reason is because the last time we read chapters from the Bible was when I was at school.
Okay.
So, reading the Quran is the first proper religious scripture that I've read.
Did you get the impression reading the Quran in English that this is God Almighty speaking?
Yeah,
Did you get that?
I did, and it resonated in some ways as well. So, yeah, it was nice to read.
And don't know if you want to touch on this, but your ex, what was her reaction? I mean, you have a child.
Yeah, she's not happy, but I mean, there's always going to be somebody that you can't please everyone, can you? So, as long as I'm pleasing Allah and myself, then that's all that matters really to me.
All the best, and very happy for you. What's been the best part so far since you've reverted to Islam?
There's been a few. I went to Dubai for my honeymoon, and I did my...
Wait, so you got married?
I've got
You need
married.
to mention that.
Yeah, sorry, I got married.
I know you got married because I conducted the nikah, but I
Yeah.
think for the listeners. So
yeah.
after you accepted Islam, when did you get married?
About a month and a half afterwards.
Within a month and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think
you
the
found yourself
stars just
a Muslim
aligned.
wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Found
And the
myself a
reaction of
Muslim.
the ex, if I dare to ask? Or
Again, wasn't great.
you've
but
gone
when-
your separate ways now?
Yeah, we're on we're
Okay.
separate now. So, so I went to Dubai on my honeymoon, and I prayed my first Friday Jummah over there, and it was a next level experience.
Very spiritual?
Very spiritual. It was like nothing I've ever seen before. The mosque was over the road from where we were staying, and you could hear the azan and
The call to prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And literally cars just stopped in the middle of a dual carriageway, got out of the cars, got the prayer mats down, and there was hundreds of people around this one mosque, and they were all over the place in Dubai. They were on every corner, so you can imagine how full they were. But doing that, it was next level, because we didn't actually take our prayer mats. We just thought, we'll get one while we're there. And luckily enough, the people that we were stood next to were locals, and they turned their mats the other way so that two people could pray on it for us. So that was a really good experience.
Did you have to introduce yourself when you were abroad in, was it Dubai?
Dubai, yeah.
Did you have to mention, did you meet other reverts, or did you have to mention when you were going to the shops there, I'm just a new Muslim, guys?
No, nothing. I think it's quite open-minded.
Very diverse.
In Dubai, and it's very it's very diverse nowadays. So yeah, I didn't feel the need to say, "Oh, look, I'm a new Muslim," you know.
They're used to tourism all the
Yeah,
time. Like,
exactly. But when I went over to the mosque, I did wear thobe. I wore traditional dress, and yeah, they were really
were you
welcoming.
emotional at any time?
I was
I'm
emotional
talking
throughout the
tears,
prayer.
emotional.
I don't. To be honest, I
Yeah.
do get emotional, but I don't get emotional like that. I think the thing that gets me the most, I get goosebumps when I'm praying a lot, and I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a sign that Allah is listening to you.
So it's been about 5 months since you become a Muslim. Between the time you accepted Islam till now, has there been any doubt in your mind whether you chose the right?
No doubt, no doubt. Best decision I ever made. I feel much more at peace, much more disciplined in the way I go about my life, with regards to what I eat and drink and do.
Has that reflected on your family? Do they see that your bad habits have decreased and you're a
Yes.
better person?
Well, I went round to my mum and dad's the other day, and my mum actually commented saying that I look the happiest I've ever looked.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
I can only put that down to Islam or my wife.
Yeah. Wow. May Allah bless your wife as well. I'm sure she's been supporting you.
Yeah, she's
It's not
amazing.
easy, I can presume, for new Muslims when they're by themselves and they just need that bit of guidance. But to be married into a Muslim family, at least you've
Yeah.
got somebody to help you
Yeah,
along
to
the
be
way.
honest, the whole family are really welcoming, really, really nice family, and I couldn't ask for better in-laws and,
Amazing.
and yeah,
Amazing.
brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws.
My next question is, what's the worst thing you've faced after you've accepted Islam, if there is any?
Can't really think of anything at the moment. Nothing. Everything has just been smooth sailing
Alhamdulillah.
so far. So, inshallah, it stays that way.
Right. Has there been any famous personalities, Muslim personalities, you've looked up to before Islam, and now that you're Muslim, you're like, hey, Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't.
Muhammad Ali is
Yeah.
one of them. But then you've got Paul Pogba as well. I'm a big United fan,
Okay.
so
Oh, I should have asked.
yeah, Paul Pogba, Amad Diallo, Mazraoui. These are all like
Inspiration.
superstars and inspirations. But yeah, I mean, you shouldn't really idolize those types of people, but sometimes you just can't help
It's
it being
nice
a fan.
to know there's others
Yeah.
part of the family.
Yeah.
Excellent. What advice would you give, Chris, to those who are considering Islam but they're a bit on the edge?
I would say research it. Read the Quran. Do your research. You've got YouTube, you've got the internet.
Stay off the news?
Yeah, stay off the news.
Yeah.
Visit a mosque, see how welcoming everyone is. Ask questions. Watch them pray. Observe. And then make a decision.
All right, thank you very much. Advice to those who are skeptic of Islam. They absolutely hate the Islamophobes. What's your advice to them?
Again, just do your research properly. Ask the Muslim people that you know questions. Ask them why they do certain things.
Clarify your doubts.
Yeah,
Or what's bothering
I
you,
think
basically.
a lot of the skeptics talk about women being oppressed, but when you ask any woman in Islam, they don't feel oppressed.
Is your wife oppressed?
No, they
You sure about that? I'm just kidding.
they see a beauty in being hidden.
Right. Okay. I think that brings us to the end of our podcast. I've got a few quick fire questions for you. Hope you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
My first question is, favorite book to read?
What other than the Quran? Anything by
I
Ian
guess, yeah.
Rankin, or I do like a good gangster book like Mario Puzo, like The Godfather or something like that.
Okay. Favorite food?
Quite partial to a smash burger.
Fair enough. Are you morning or an evening person?
Evening.
Why is that?
I just
Can't wake up early.
I like a lie-in. Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite sport?
Football.
You said you're a United fan.
I am a United, but I do like golf as well. Though
Okay.
I'm a big golfer.
Fair enough. One advice you'd give to your younger 15-year-old self?
I would say, if you've got something in your mind and you're dead set on it, don't let anything get in the way, just follow it. So maybe if things had been different, I'd have been a revert of 20 years now, and I'd have been the happiest I've ever been. So yeah, just don't let any doubts.
Do you wish you became a Muslim a lot earlier?
Yeah. Knowing what I know now,
Yeah.
knowing how I feel now, yeah, without a doubt.
You said you have a son called Jude.
Jude,
How old is he?
3.
3. What's your... I think the question I'm trying to ask is, would you preach Islam to him, or would you let him choose for himself?
I would let him choose for himself, but I would give him the information that he needs to make an informed decision, I think.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's been great having you. Really enjoyed the podcast, and I hope we can have more and more reverts sitting on that chair. And
Yeah,
I hope many
inshallah.
people have been inspired by your story, because I certainly have.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris.
Been a pleasure.